Today I'm on a mission to see if $1 ramen can really challenge your traditional high-end quality ramen. It's standard practice to think that just because your budget is low that you can't have a great meal, and I'm here to tell you that's just not true. Whether you're cooking with leftover ingredients you have in the pantry or shopping at the end of the Luca for your next meal, your ramen can still be unfathomably spectacular with just a few tweaks. So by the end of the video, not only will you know how to make a top tier ramen, but you'll have a clear and precise winner between a $1 ramen bowl and a $50 ramen bowl. So let's pin these two dishes together head to head in our ramen competition and jump right into the video. For starters, we're working on our $1 ramen, and I can guarantee you already know where this is going. We're starting with the OG, the old reliable, the old faithful. One package of mood chicken ramen noodles, or however you say this. Once you have your stock, you're going to grab a sauce pot and it's time to make our ramen. Place the pot on a high heat and add it in a half a cup of chicken stock. Once at a boil, you're going to cut it down to a medium heat and add in your instant noodles. Once your noodles have reached a tender texture, take it off the pot and heat and get ready to plate. Take some of your broth, add it to the bowl. Take your seasoning package that came with the noodles and add this into the bowl. Give this a vicious, and I do mean vicious, stir, and once mixed in, add in your noodles. You can plate your noodles by simply dropping them in the bowl or gently laying them down to give them a more restaurant quality look, but either way it's up to you. And just as simple as ever, we have our $1 ramen. It's not much we can work with on a $1 budget, however, it's still tasty given the budget that we have to work with and a lot better than any other budget meals in this price range. Now, I think it's time to move on to our star of the show, which is the $50 ramen, and that starts right now. To start our $50 ramen, we need to begin our prep, which is essentially cutting and sauteing our toppings. Grab a cutting board and place your green onions on a board, and we're going to slice them at a diagonal angle. Chop the white root off, and we're going to slice the green flesh until we have a handful or so of green onions. Once they're blanch in cold water to get rid of the sharp oniony flavor, and set this aside so we can complete our prep. Next, you want to grab a package of your favorite mushrooms. This can be regular brown mushrooms, shiitake, white, or even enoki. Really, whatever you have or whatever you want here can work just fine. Next, you want to wash your mushrooms in a cold water bath to remove any of the dirt that wasn't removed earlier. Next, you want to remove the mushroom stem by simply pulling it out and then slicing the mushroom in thick half-inch slices. You can achieve this by literally slicing horizontally or left to right for my people who are directionally challenged. Once done, grab a bowl and place the mushrooms in a bowl and reserve them for when we're ready to plate. Next and lastly for our prep toppings, we're going to soft boil 1 to 2 eggs. Bring a sauce pot to a high heat and we're going to add in about 1 to 2 cups of water, making sure it's deep enough to hold our eggs. Once at a rolling boil, we're going to lightly salt our water and we're going to drop in our eggs using a spider so they don't crack upon entry. A spider is literally just another form for a strainer. I didn't even know this until about a week ago. Once inside the water, let them cook on that high heat for 6 minutes if you want a runny egg, or 7 minutes if you want something slightly a little more firm. For me, I'm going with 7. Once the time has come, place your eggs in a ice water bath, wait for them to cool for about 1 minute, and then peel them under cold running water to safely remove the shell. Once both shells are removed, place them in a container and set them aside, and you guessed it, until we're ready to plate. Okay, so now that we have our prep ingredients out of the way, it's time to cook our actual ingredients. Grab a Dutch oven and place it on a medium-high heat and heavily cover the bottom with a high smoke point oil. While that comes to temp, you want to lay out room temperature chicken thighs, 2 to 3 is fine, on a tray and season both sides with salt and pepper and let them rest until our oil reaches that medium temperature. Once there, you want to place your chicken thighs skin side down, and yes, they need to be skin side down, and let them cook until it develops that perfect golden brown crust. And then flip to the other side and do the same. The chicken thighs, depending upon their thickness, should take 8 to 10 minutes to complete the cooking process. And in this time, they should develop a nice sear and retain those natural juices within the chicken. Once done, take them off, set them on a plate, and then let them rest in a warm place until we're done. I'd prefer if you set your oven to its lowest temperature and let them retain warmth in the oven until done. And while they're resting in that warm place, we're going to move on to our next step, which is our broth. In the same pot that we just cooked our chicken, add in about 1 or 2 cups of chicken broth and let this come to a simmer. The reason we want to cook the broth in this same pot is we want all those flavorful juices to combine with our broth to add some extra depth and a few more flavor profiles. Once it comes to a simmer, stir for 30 to 40 seconds, making sure to get any extra pieces of chicken left behind on the floor of the pot, and then let it cook on a simmer still while we work on our noodles. To a separate pot, fill it with 3 to 4 cups of water and bring it to a boil. Next, you want to add in a few teaspoons of salt and add in our fresh ramen noodles. The reason we want to use fresh ramen is because it gives our ramen a tad bit more depth, and when they are fresh, it's a tad more springy and light when eaten. Let these boil for about 5 to 6 minutes or until they're tender and light. You know when they're ready when they rise to the top and have a color change. Once they're, take them off the heat, strain them, and let them rest as we prepare our final ingredient, which is our most important ingredient, our tarte. This is by far our most important and most influential part of making our ramen, and this is our tarte. The tarte is what offers 90% of our flavor for the dish because if you haven't noticed, we haven't really seasoned anything too heavily for our ramen. Bring a frying pan to a medium heat and you want to add in 2 tablespoons of dark soy sauce. If you don't have that, just use regular soy sauce. Then add in 1.5 teaspoons of sake and 1 tablespoon of sugar and bring this to a simmer. While it comes to a simmer, you want to constantly stir, and I do mean constantly. The stirring and cooking of the tarte really makes sure we're cooking away the alcohol and just leaving the flavor as well as the other components. Let this cook for 3 to 5 minutes and then take off the heat, and we're ready to combine our delicious homemade ramen. Grab a decent sized bowl and you want to start by ladling in a 1/2 cup of stock from earlier and then add in our tarte, or about half of it. The tarte is going to add the flavor we're looking for in our broth, so make sure to taste it to see if it needs more before adding any extra. Once to your liking, you want to add in your noodles by gently laying them down in the bowl or by folding them like you would in a big blanket. Next, you want to add in your toppings, making sure to place them all around the edge of the bowl. First, you want to add in your roasted chicken thighs from earlier, slice these into strips, and add in our bowl. Next, add in your mushrooms, your soft-boiled eggs after they've been cut in half. Next, add in your green onion, and finally add in cut strips of seaweed for extra taste and a flavor profile for our ramen. And just like that, we've made 2 different versions of a cultural powerhouse, and quite honestly, both were really good. The budget-friendly option was great if you were strapped for cash and needed some ramen that could still give you a great meal, and the $50 ramen was one that could do the same just with a few extra steps. However, as you possibly guessed, the $50 ramen was the ultimate winner for me. That smooth and fatty broth with the tarte and the seared chicken is a taste that I will always love. Until next time, enjoy your dinner from Chase Andy. Don't forget to click the subscribe button in the menu below and click to my right in about 5 seconds for many more videos you really will enjoy.